What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about, catching the mental stories that you're telling yourself in the here and now. I mean, what are you doing now? What are you thinking about now? Is it reflective of who you want to be, or is it just reactivity, fear, hysteria, worry, these like what if scenarios? And catch yourself more and more so about what is running just on autopilot in your mind, and realize that you don't have to just let shit go on autopilot. You can start to bring this into more in alignment with thoughts that feel good, empowering ways to think, more empowering beliefs, more empowering assumptions. It's like a good example is like, for me, I guess, is like I just like recently fell. I caught myself with like my hand, and I fucking like landed like really hard. And immediately the first thought is like, oh, did I hurt myself? Oh, did I break my hand? Did I sprain it? Did I hyperextend it? Is this gonna just like swell? Is it all of this what if, worst case scenarios? It's like, I haven't been to the doctor, for any type of injury. I don't recall ever. It's like I cut my finger really like bad with a knife. It's like a knife was falling off the countertop, and my immediate reaction was like, to try to catch it, for some reason. And like, I sliced like the tip of my finger. But like other than that, it's like, don't really deal with that kind of shit. It's like I used to skateboard, and like I'm not really a stranger to like smacking the ground really hard, or like landing weird, or any of that type of shit. But like in the past, I've noticed like as like age has kind of like been more and more of an issue, the narrative on the body whenever like something happens, is different. Where like in the past it used to be able to bounce right back up, and I think the only difference is the mental story. I don't think the body ages the way they, I think it does based on your consciousness. But if you let go of like this concept of like, oh, I'm getting more and more brittle, like that limiting belief, and just replace that with, I'm like, my body's a reflection of mine. This is only going to like empower and strengthen me in some way. It's like even like when you like work with your hands, like a lot of times if you haven't done that before, you get like blisters and shit all over your fingers. You start playing the guitar for the first time, like the whole tips of your fingers would be like all like sore and shit like that. And I've realized, like going to the gym, just like all of these like little stories that I carry about pain, some of which are empowering stories. If you're working out and you're like really pushing the limits of what you're able to do, and it's like you're really super sore, and it's like, oh, then you have a mental narrative of like, oh, I'm strengthening, I'm doing a good thing, this is good pain, this is like. But really, it's only one sensation with all these different mental narratives, and so it's like, I start to catch it, faster and faster, because like I'll sit and I'll stew, for like however long, or just like bitch in my own mind about like, like a lot of times if I like smack my finger with a hammer or something, or fall like I just did, there'll be like a lot of like anger and like motherfucker and just like bitching, and I'll just let that run. I don't even try to suppress these things anymore. I used to kind of like suppress it, which I found like makes it worse, because it's like you're resisting it, and then it's like becoming more of an ordeal. But ever since like I quit smoking cigarettes, I went on this like binge of like David Hawkins with like the Letting Go, the Art of Surrender. And like that was really helpful for me to like stop repressing like my emotions and how I was like feeling. Instead, just like let it just be. And if I'm gonna be angry, I'm gonna be fucking irately angry, and just and not feel shame or guilt for feeling that way. It's just like getting a lot of these things of like natural reactions to things that seem contrary to like how I'm supposed to, how to be a good person. I'm not supposed to feel this way, or whatever. Letting a lot of that shit slide and go, and just like, okay, well, I'm gonna fucking process this how I'm gonna process it. It's like I feel injured, I came out of nowhere, I'm gonna bitch about it in my head. Well, how long are you gonna spend like the present moment doing that? It's like you're gonna be 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes of just like yelling and screaming and just fucking dealing with this energy. There's 30 minutes. It becomes to be like, okay, well, how long am I gonna like spend life just in my mind just consumed by this. You know, and it becomes easier and easier to just like be able to observe the thoughts after a while, where you're not just so like hyped up with the emotions of the whole thing, because all you're doing is reacting to thought. Whatever the thought is, it's like, oh, what if I can't work? What if fear? You know, it's mostly you're just reacting to fear. You know, it's the same fucking game regardless of what it is, whether it's money, relationships, business things, anything. It's all just reacting to fear, you know. And once you realize fear is an illusion, that like the stories that you're building unconsciously with the fear, if unchecked, you know, if you believe that the fear is real, or you start to resist it heavily unconsciously, then you start to draw it to you. It's weird because, you know, so many times in like the old state of mind, you're just constantly reacting out of fear, and things getting worse and worse and worse. The older you get, the more you believe the thoughts, and the more that you're spinning down the drain of this fucking limiting beliefs, these limiting assumptions, these disempowering thoughts. Yeah, and those scarcity thoughts of like, oh, there's just not enough healing ability in my body anymore. I'm just getting older. You know, you're always looking forward to death. Then it's like looking forward to decay and fucking worst case scenarios manifesting, and like, oh, you know, I could be getting cancer. You know, I'm getting to be that age. You know, it's like all these fucking fairy tales we tell ourselves about things that probably will never happen. They especially won't happen when you fucking are consciously aware of what's going on. And it's like, why am I just having these errant thoughts of separation and fear? You know, why do I believe that randomly happen? You know, because so much of like metaphysics and moving in the new creation that you are, the new man, as the Bible would describe, is facing whatever the fear is, and instead of being reacted to the fear, using that opportunity to grow faith. You know, and in that faith, ultimately, is realizing that God is within you, and the power of that is within. Like the kingdom of God is within you, and to seek God's righteousness and all that kind of stuff. You know, but when doing that, you know, applying faith to these circumstances, where in the past the old slave mind had no faith in anything, really. I mean, it was just reactive, and yeah, it had no faith in your body. It had no faith in nothing. You know, it was separate. Everything is separate, and everything is there's some secondary force that is out to get you for some reason that's contrary to like God's will. You know, it's like, oh, there's force is equal to the power of like our Creator, and there's something to actually worry about, when there's really only God. So it's like the only thing you should be worrying about is God, even though in that, you know, your fears get resolved anyway. But you know, as long as you believe in two, that's the problem. You know, it's like you start moving it to one, and realizing the same, you know, the same power that the lack of it causes problems. It's the solution is just like more of it, more love. You know, that's always the answer. You know, and like checking your thoughts in the here and now is a practice of like, oh, you know, I was just drifting down the rabbit hole of fear and separation. I just maybe was just like in my own fucking head for 10 minutes of thinking about worst case scenarios, and how I would, oh, well, you know, if I couldn't work, and then I could have my guy do this, and he can go do that, and then I can schedule that over to here, and planning for injury, planning for the worst case to manifest. Who knows what's going to happen? Nobody knows what's going to happen. You know, it's like the old slave mind thinks it knows everything. Oh, it's like always drawing on past occurrences to try to solve this new problem. But so much of the past situations were a direct result of an unconscious manifestation, because we're always manifesting. It's like, that's like one of the big stumbling blocks that I feel like some people get into. I've gotten into it, where it's just like, oh, well, unless I'm totally in my head being totally mindful and trying to be in a certain way, it's like, you got to get out of the way of it, because you're already doing it. You know, that, you know, and it's God within you that's doing it, and whether it's you're consciously aware of it or not, it's your thoughts are having an effect on your perception of reality, and on a even larger scale. I mean, the reality itself is all connected, you know, and so it's like you're looking at like a gigantic mirror, and in that mirror, as long as you're like not taking responsibility or ownership of why these things are going on, you continue to create the same stumbling blocks over and over again in these loops, because the thought is still in your consciousness. It hasn't been resolved. And so that thought of fear, until transmuted into faith, will constantly be showing you, like, you know, in the mirror of reality. It's not just, you know, what you believe, like the positive, it's also the negative shit that you believe too is also being reflective. So I mean, if you believe the worst in people, you'll see that reflected back. Where you have somebody who doesn't think that way, they will see people more in a different light, you know. And so you got to see it for yourself and start making the changes, because everything is a delayed reflection. And so in whatever's going on, you know, it's either coming from a conscious thought of faith, you know, in the faith that, you know, with God all things is possible. You know, you can be, do, or have anything, that you are already in fact blessed now. I mean, the only reason you don't see that is because you just don't believe it. That's the problem. You know, everything is actually perfectly unfolding. The problem is you just don't believe it, and then you put up these walls of resistance, and then you start manifesting unconsciously fucking undesirable things, and then pointing to those undesirable things as reasons why you believe what you're believing. So anytime that you change states from maybe scarcity to abundance, you know, a lot of times you'll be confronted with the exact, you know, shit in consciousness that's holding you in that state, which is your unconscious fears and things that you're hysterical about, you know. And so it's like, when those things happen, instead of like, oh, you know, this doesn't work, or I'm, you know, whatever, then you start to drift into the old state of mind where you just become more and more unconscious. You know, instead, when these things happen, use it as an opportunity to go, okay, well, my knee-jerk reaction is I'm going to become fearful and hysterical, even though that's not going to do anything. You know, that's just, oh, I'm reacting. Well, instead of just letting that go and then just not ever addressing that that belief that got brought to your consciousness because of some neutral external event, circumstance, whatever caused that to bubble to your consciousness, if you don't either forgive it, let it go, or whatever, it's just going to keep happening over and over again, and it's going to keep you limited in this state because you're not moving to the next state. So looking at everything that happens as the circumstance doesn't matter. What's happening is I'm seeing a delayed reaction. You know, if I'm going from scarcity to abundance, and, you know, say I have like $1,000 of cash or whatever, or 5,000, or whatever is your comfortable level, million, you know, billion, whatever your fucking comfort level is, it doesn't matter. You know, but like, you know, say you're moving from scarcity to abundance, just for ease of understanding, say you have $1,000. Well, the next thing you know, you're going to put on prosperity and abundance. You're going to put on how you would feel if you've already attained this financial goal, you know, being abundant, being prosperous, whatever. So, you know, ultimately aren't in fear about money, you know, because you can have fear of money both ways. Whether you have none, then it's like scarcity of like, oh, I got all these bills, how am I going to pay this? I got fucking drama. Or, you know, on the other side of the pendulum is, I'm going to get robbed. Oh, I'm going to be a target. I'm going to lose it all. Oh, I'm going to make bad investments. Oh, the banks are going to fuck me. Whatever you're worried about. On the other side, oh, the economy, inflation. Oh, my fucking nest egg is just dwindling away to nothing. You know, it works on either side. So it's like, you know, actual abundance in my definition is just not even having fear when it comes to money. You know, just having trust that, you know, God provides the money. You know, the level that you get is reflective of your, like, what you feel worthy of receiving. You know, it's almost like a water valve, where it's like you have unlimited supply within you, but you have control of the valve, you know, where it's just like, oh, well, I'm gonna either push it away because I feel like I'm not worthy of it, or like I feel shame, like, oh, you know, other people are suffering, so I feel guilty because I'm actually not, you know. And so you fuck with the valve, which like limits your own supply to like, oh, well, I only feel like 15 grand a year is what I'm worthy of, you know. So you set that fucking limit, even though some other you know, brother in Christ is like fucking wide open, you know, fuck it, you know, let it rain type thing, you know. But that's on you and your consciousness. Everything is a reflection of consciousness. And so where I was getting to with that though is, say you got like $1,000 and it's like, I'm tired of feeling fearful I'm going to lose it. I'm tired of feeling fearful that I'm not going to have enough to pay for whatever. I'm going to put on the fact that I'm blessed. I'm going to put on the new man that is abundant. Ultimately, the best thing to do is ask God yourself what to do, you know. But yeah, but if you're going to kind of just, for hypothetical, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to put it on. Well, next thing you know, oh, surprise bill. Oh, I did lose it all. Oh, this happened. Oh, this happened. Oh, that $1,000 just fucking vanished. Well, the old mind would be like, well, see, money is scarce, you know, and they will use it, you know, you'll got to check your own mind about it and see what little story you're telling yourself, because that's the story that needs to let go of. You know, the fact that you can just make a mental shift and then everything just fucking falls apart like that. I mean, that happens every fucking time. You know, I didn't have like a bunch of body fucking drama until like I started to move in a direction of like, oh, I'm gonna fucking amp up my body. Then all of a sudden, oh fuck, oh you got your lower back ache, hip pains, you fucking drama going. You know, it's like almost fucking laughable after a while, where you're just like, as long as you don't believe that it's real, or really get hung up on like the thought of it, because what fucking comes to your awareness is your limiting belief. That's the first thing that comes to you. So it's that thought that is the problem. So it's like, in that same problem though is the solution, because it's only ever now. You're not worried about what's going to, how this disease is going to progress tomorrow. You know, it's in the here and now. It's like, you know, as soon as you remove your attention from it, trust that God within you is your healer. And that with God, all things are possible. It's easy for God to heal this. You know, God set up the fucking thing to begin with, to even cause the injury. You know, it's like, why wouldn't, you know, it's like, would you be that worried about being injured in a dream? Yeah, that's like the other part of it. It's like when you start getting so involved in your old way of thinking, where you're seeing all this separation and everything, you're kind of losing track of like, you're actually in a lucid dream now. I mean, it's like a hologram. You know, it's not what the materials think is real. You know, it's more dreamlike. You know, and you can start seeing that for yourself as you change your consciousness. You start seeing how reality just starts fucking changing along with it. You know, and it's like, when you first start putting this stuff on, you know, and I think a lot of people like feel like attacked, and those are, you know, like going like, oh, all these satanic forces are against me now, because, you know, I've become like a, you know, follower of like God, and trying to, you know, really listen to what Jesus had to say, and, you know, put it into practice. And then it's like, oh, then everything just goes to shit. I had like Christian people telling me that, like when I got baptized, they're like, oh, you know, right after you get baptized, you know, that's a big time where people feel like attacked, that you have all these things starting to go wrong or whatever. But, you know, I already kind of was aware of the things that are being reflected at that point, you know. But like, yeah, it's almost like all of your fears start to reflect out, you know. And it's not until you realize through just practice of this, like, oh, there's a fear where I used to be reactive. Instead, I'm going to maybe create a new thought, ask God for a new thought. You know, that's probably the best thing to do, is just ask God what to think, you know, and then be still. And, you know, you might get some of your old slave mind programming come in. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, something happened. And it's like, oh, your limiting belief comes up. Oh, you're another limiting belief. You only have probably 3 or 4 limiting beliefs that, like, and most of those are just like very sketchy of why you even believe this stuff anyway, you know. And so it's like, yeah, that wasn't, you know, that was the new thought that God's going to give me. That's an old thought. That's an old thought. And then old thought. And then it's like, just continue to be still. Don't become reactive to these thoughts. Watch the thoughts. You know, and it's only when you resist them or believe them that they have a chance of like manifesting. You know, it's like if they just come and go, and it's just like, what, I don't know what that was, you know. But then when you actually get, you know, a new bit added to your consciousness from, you know, infinite intelligence, it's like, oh, it kind of resonates a little different. It's totally kind of like, well, here's my limiting beliefs, here's my limiting belief, here it is, and here it is, and then, well, wow, that's a different way to look at it. And then put that on, and then just trust that. And then, you know, a lot of it has to do with, you need to stop thinking that you need to do the work. that's a stumbling block I get into, where it's like the old slave mind for me is like, okay, well, for example, you know, say I like say I need $1,000 or something. You know, it's like, okay, well, I need to go do jobs, and I got to do this, I got to go run do this, and I got to do. That's part of like being reactive for one, just creating out of fear for two, instead of just trusting that God's laying out the perfect plan. And it's like everything that brought you to here has led you to this perfect moment now. It's like you're not missing out on anything. Oh, you weren't tricked, and now all of a sudden there's, you know, it's like everything is happening is like perfectly happened for right now, for you to let this shit go, get off your cross, stop crucifying yourself with all this suffering that you keep enduring, thinking that it's some noble thing, you know, and you know, put on the new man, and realize that you're blessed right here, right now, and that you can be, do, and have anything. And part of the problem is in your thoughts, is forgetting that you can already have anything. You know, it's like you just don't believe it. So you push it away, and you get stuck in this slave mentality, and then start experiencing that slave reflection, and more shit to react to, more drama, more of the undesirable. But even when that stuff is manifesting, you know, look at it as an opportunity to then increase your faith, and ask God what to think, how to process it, and not to become reactive to it. Because the more that you can just surrender those thoughts, let them go, replace them with some faith-filled thoughts, because God, you know, had already laid it out in the Bible, all these promises. Most of it is just like we just don't even take them seriously. It's like, oh, because we believe the shit from the world more than we believe the shit that God said in the Bible. And more than what God's telling you in your own inner guidance system, your own teacher within. You know, you're disregarding that, which makes you feel awful. You know, and then, you know, putting on what the world thinks is how you solve these problems, even though the world is a complete shit show. You know, it's like you're going to listen to people doubling down on error, doubling down, not happy, not fucking living abundantly, not peaceful, not able to even master their own state of mind. They're fucking being reactive and unconscious, lashing out, wanting to attack. And it's like, I mean, you can keep doing that if you want to, you know, but like, that's kind of not the flow I choose to be in. And it's like, it's only ever now. So it's like, if you were drifting and you're feeling it like attacking people or attacking other whatevers, let all the emotion and energy just fucking dissipate. By stop resisting these thoughts, stop battling them, you know, stop pretending, you know, giving them weight, you know, because it's only ever now. So it's like, are you going to continue to just let your mind think things that you don't even want to be thinking, that aren't even real or true, or do you want to just stop that shit and like be at peace and be like, maybe think about things that bring you joy, or that are actually like a hopeful fucking outcome, or a desirable situation, or, you know, better than, you know, than you even thought. And then, and in that, it's like realizing that God within you hears your thoughts, is able to then externalize them, and rewards your faith through material fucking manifestation. That's happening now. It's only ever now. So it's not, you know, divine timing is now. You know, so many people I hear in the spiritual community, it's like, oh, divine timing, that gives this excuse to continue to suffer throughout linear time for, oh, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 4 months away, maybe it's a year from now. It's like, time is an illusion. You know, so, you know, put on how you would feel if that manifestation has already occurred. You know, so it's like money is, again, a good example, because it's like people want it for different reasons. Some people want it because that makes them feel free. Some people want it because it makes them feel powerful. Some people want it because it makes them feel safe. You know, whatever the reasoning is that you want it. You know, if you want to feel safe now. This is the only time you're going to feel safe. This is as safe as you can feel, is right now. As peaceful as you can feel, you can do that right now. It ain't coming tomorrow. You know, it's all about these inner stories and these inner narratives, and what we're telling ourselves, you know, throughout the day. You know, most of the time, just on autopilot, listening to thoughts that are undesirable, that aren't real or true. It's just shit that we've been taught, and we just hold on to it for some reason, even though it does nothing but cause suffering. You know, and so, you know, moving in a direction of letting that go, catching it, but at the same time allowing the energy to dissipate by not resisting. Oh, it's like, oh, I got a bad thought, I'm gonna push it away. It's like, yeah, that's just gonna just create more of that fucking energy. It's like, if you're angry about something, you fall and you hurt yourself and you're angry about it, you smack your finger really hard with the hammer, be angry for a while, but then let it dissipate. It's just like, let it, how you can't just stay at a 10, for 15 minutes. You can hold that for a while. As long as you're not resisting it, it'll be a 10 for a while, and then it'll start to go down, and it'll start to go down. Then eventually you'll get to a point where you can just be like, all right, do I really want to keep thinking this? How long am I gonna fucking spend now just angry, when I could just be thinking about how whatever you want to think, whatever brings you joy to think about. You think about your child, it's like, think about your relationship, think about things going right, think about how good it feels that you don't got to worry about shit, because God's in control and you don't got to worry about it. Everything's unfolding perfectly, and that as soon as you let go of this limiting belief, you're going to level up, and it's not going to continue to be reflected in your reality anymore. Because that's the other part of it. The more that you let the fears and the hysteria go by replacing those thoughts of fear, if you're just spending 90% of your day just, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Fear, 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 all day long. Just these little tiny scraps of fear of just reacting to thought. Oh, what if that happens? Oh, what if I get in a car accident? What if I develop some disease? Oh, what if people think I'm ugly? What if all this nonsense? It's just, if you really, and people that just love to suffer, or at least, want to sit there and try to convince you why you should be, it's like, how much of your thought life is actually desirable? Maybe 10%, if you're lucky. So 90% of your fucking day, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, on autopilot, is fucking undesirable. Probably 99% of the time is undesirable, except for little fleeting bits of like joy that someone might give you, but like, yeah, it's how long you want to keep telling yourself these narratives that just make you fucking miserable, when the only thing, in fact, that's making you miserable is thoughts. That you can be thinking an entirely different thing. It's insane, but like, that's what insanity, I guess, is. Just keep doing the same shit over and over again, expecting it to, this time it'll work. This time it'll work. It hasn't worked for 500 times, but this time it'll work. And it's like, whatever. But like, yeah, I just want to get on here and kind of bring that to you guys' attention. It's like super fucking, it's like drought conditions, like this past like couple weeks, super hot, and then it just rained a ton, and then it's like I don't know, it feels, you go outside and it's just like, fuck this, I'm gonna stay inside for a while, and so I'm gonna call her a day. And like, other than that, thanks everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. And until the next now, God bless.